Hello, my name is Pam Bartha, and I am the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. I'm super excited to spend this time with you. Hello, thanks for the love already. So some people are just starting to join in on the video. This is a really fun time for me to be with you, this Facebook Live, because this is a time where I'm going to be sharing my personal story with you of how I've been able to live free of multiple sclerosis for the past 28 years. I can't believe it, 28 years, and it's actually within the next month, it'll be 29 years. That's a long time. It means I'm getting older. But I am very happy to share my story with you because I just did a new preview call, my masterclass training. I did it live just last week, and we had over 1,700 people register to join in to listen to this masterclass training. And this tells me that this is a very near and dear topic to many of you. Many of you are suffering with chronic disease. Let me know, give me a thumbs up if you're dealing with chronic disease. Maybe you're suffering with multiple sclerosis. But what I would like you to do is I'd like you to interact with me during this video, during our time together, because it makes it so much more meaningful for me. I don't get to see your face, I don't get to see your beautiful smile, but I do get to see the hearts and the thumbs up. Please share this with people in your life that are searching for answers. You know, it's brutal what people are going through. We just had a student join us in my program this week who is on a feeding tube. Totally brutal. A beautiful young lady who has a huge life ahead of her. Another beautiful lady who can't speak very well, has full-time care, and this has to change, and it is going to change. It is going to change with wellness champions like you helping us spread the word. So I'm doing my part, right? I have been so incredibly diligent, and I've learned the principles that I needed to do to completely stop the progression of multiple sclerosis and have a lot of recovery and maintain that for 28 years, almost 29 years. And I'm super excited to share my story with you. Way back in the 1980s, 1988, this was if you go back and listen to my masterclass training, there will be a link in the feed of this video, but if you listen to it, you'll get to see what I looked like back then. I had a whole bunch of hair, and I was a young mother. I had 2 small children. I had been healthy all of my life. How many of you guys can relate? Before you got sick, you thought you were a really healthy person. I was active. I never got sick. I literally was like raising babies and would go for a checkup with my doctor once in a while. I did feel a little bit run down, but I had 2 children, 3 and under. And so there were times that you're up all night with them and they're sick, etc., but nothing unusual. And I went from being that type of a person within just a week or two to becoming diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. How does that happen? Well, one Sunday afternoon, I was out in a park with my family, just in our city park, and I noticed this black spot in the center of my vision. And I was 28 years old. I was a young mom. I was slim, healthy, fit, just enjoying a beautiful, sunny, warm day with my family out in the park. But there was this little black spot in the center of my left vision. And I kept rubbing it, and it wouldn't go away. And I thought, this is really odd, but it didn't concern me too much. By the next day, it had been like a complete, or actually it wasn't a patch yet. It grew bigger. And then I started to get worried. So then I went to an eye specialist who went and checked out my eye, and he said that it's optic neuritis. And I had no idea what that was, but he basically said, you're probably gonna be fine, but it looks like a case of optic neuritis. It looks like your optic nerve in the back of your eye is inflamed. So I went home, but within the next day, my eye was completely blackout. It was like I had a black patch on my eye, and then I was really scared. Then I went back to the eye specialist, and at that point he said, okay, this is a very serious case of optic neuritis, so I'm going to send you to a specialist because there's a possibility that you have multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, what is multiple sclerosis? I didn't have any family members that had MS. I didn't know anybody that had multiple sclerosis. So I was fortunate that I was sent to one of the very best MS clinics in Canada on the West Coast. It is a university hospital clinic, MS clinic. And I went to, I thought I was in really good hands. I went to see the leading expert in multiple sclerosis in Canada. I got to his office, and because I had never been sick before, I really truly felt that if we ever got disease, that our doctors would heal us. I know that's a little bit naive, but this was back in the 80s, and I was just a young mom, 28 years old, so I didn't have any reason to doubt that. When I went to that expert, my husband drove me there. He did all his testing, and because my optic neuritis was so severe, and it was still a complete blackout when I saw him, and I had weakness and tingling in my legs, I had terrible headaches, I had terrible fatigue. I could not take care of my kids. My mom stepped in to help at home before I went out to the appointment, and I thought he was going to fix me, but he did his tests and he said, okay, you have multiple sclerosis, I'm certain of it, but I'm telling you that there's nothing that you can do. You're going to be completely disabled in time. There are people that are going to tell you about all kinds of snake oil cures, but I'm telling you as the expert, don't waste your time with it. Nothing is going to help you. Sometimes multiple sclerosis hits people quickly, and sometimes it hits people slowly, but you will be disabled in time, and there's nothing you can do. So he put me on a very strong course of prednisone, which was supposed to help bring back any recovery that was possible, and sent me on my way. I left his office completely devastated. I thought that my life was over. My husband drove me home, and it was through a mountain pass, and it poured rain, and it was dark, and all I could do all the way home was cry. And all I could think about was, how was I going to take care of my two little kids, a little girl and little boy, both 3 and under, and what a burden I would be to my husband. He was 28 years old, young, good looking, and he was going to have to take care of me all his life. It was the most devastating time many of you know this, right? You've gone through this yourself. Maybe you can share with me how it just like it's like your whole world is dumped upside down and tipped up, and it's like and it's a mystery, because it's like, I was healthy. Like, how does this mysterious thing take over my body? It doesn't make any sense, does it? And many of you can relate. I've talked to hundreds of people with multiple sclerosis, and you've told me, I was an athlete, I was a dancer, I was a soccer player, I used to ride bike, I used to run, and slowly but surely that was taken away from me. And you wonder why, and it's like this big mystery out there, these mystery diseases, ALS, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, cancer. You know, we've spent millions and millions of dollars researching, and we're still no closer to a cure. Well, I really hope that as you spend more time with me, because I've got lots of different free training videos, you're going to come to understand that this wellness is not a mystery, and you can take back your life just like I did. So I want to share some of the successes that I've had. It's been truly amazing, life-changing, totally wild. So when I returned home shortly after my diagnosis, my mother-in-law gave me this book. And she had no idea if it would help me or not, and she didn't really understand what it was about. It's really important to share that I received one book. I didn't get any other information from anyone else. And I really believe that it was divine intervention, and it was by the grace of God I got that information, because when I read it, it was written by a medical doctor, and he said that multiple sclerosis and all chronic disease is caused by silent chronic infections in the body. If you treat those infections well, and that's the key, is you have to treat them effectively, the disease that you're dealing with is going to stop, and you will have a lot of recovery. When I read that book, I was so filled with hope. I didn't know that I could stop this disease. I didn't know that I would be able to, totally cure it and live MS free forever, but it gave me hope. The standard of care gave me no hope, right? And so now I read this book and I started to implement what he said. And then I started my journey. I decided at that time to take a different path. Some of you are at that place. Some of you have just been diagnosed. So in the last couple of weeks last week since I did that big masterclass training, Many of you have reached out to me. Many of you I'm going to be working with, helping to recover. But you've shared with me that some of you are just diagnosed, or you don't even have a diagnosis yet, right? But you have all these symptoms that are very similar to MS and you're really scared. Well, if you treat infection, you can be like me. When I was 28 years old, I dealt with it early on. I didn't have a lot of disability, just that my eye, obviously I had some damage there because it was such a severe case of optic neuritis. But what's so exciting is the sooner you catch it, the more recovery you will have and the quicker you will heal. So that book started me on this path number 2, I call it, the path to treat the cause of multiple sclerosis. So what kind of success have I had? Number 1, I've been able to live MS free for the past 28 years. In 1 month, it'll be 29 years. We're getting on to the 30-year mark. That's crazy. And I have helped hundreds of people recover from chronic disease, not just MS, but other chronic disease. And I went back to university. Within a few years, I had my son was very young, right when I had the MS. So I started going back to school because I'm like, I want to help other people. I want to help other people get well. And at first I thought I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to be a natural doctor. But because I had 2 small kids and just doing the science degree, I pulled a lot of all-nighters and I thought, med school is not going to be very nice and very good to my family. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And I really believe that, again, by the grace of God, He's been leading me down this path. Thank you so much for all the love. And please type in your questions. Maybe you have some questions for me about my story, or let me know about your story if there's some similarities or if you felt the same way. And please share this with other people. But that book really opened my eyes to this whole world of integrative health. So this was in 1988. I had no internet, right? I had nothing other than this one book. So what I would do is I would go down to the health food store. Every month we had this Alive magazine. And at the back of the Alive magazine, there was this new review of a book. So I kept looking for, oh my gosh, is there a new book? Is there a new book that would help me? And I found 4, over months, I found 4 different books written by medical doctors that were all doing the same thing all around the world. So there was Dr. Luc de Schepper. There was Dr. William Crook. He wrote The Yeast Connection. That was the first book that I read. Make sure you don't buy them right now because they're really outdated. There's a lot better information. You can probably find them in your library, some of them. So The Yeast Connection is something you can probably find in the library. And it's just interesting to know that these doctors were treating and helping people recover naturally all these infections and chronic disease 30 years ago. What happened? Why aren't we doing this yet? Why aren't we treating infection? Good question. That's for another day. But when I read those books, the other one is Dr. Rona. He's a Canadian doctor. And Dr. Luc de Schepper is in Europe. And Dr. Truss is on the west coast of Canada. And then Dr. Crook is in the United States. So reading all of those different books really helped me to build up a strong belief system that infections were the cause of my chronic disease. So now we're living in a whole different time where there is so much research showing that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease. And I actually created a resource for you. And maybe Danielle can stick it in the feed also of below this video. Because when you click on it, you're going to see some of the big infections that are causing the symptoms. So back in 1988, when I didn't have the internet and I had these 4 books, like, how am I going to figure this out? So I went from doctor to doctor as far as naturopath. In Canada, we didn't have functional medicine. We didn't have a wellness revolution. We had a tiny little health food store, really, really small, which not many people went to see. And they were just like herbs and bulk things, and it was not as well organized and as not as many options as what we have today. But when I went and started to work with different naturopaths, what I found is that, you know, every time you go to see a healthcare professional, they learn certain things in school. And so they would do their practice on me with what they learned in school. But a lot of things didn't really help, like all of the allergy testing and desensitizing and a lot of different detoxification and And I did heavy metal detox too, but none of that really helped. The more I focused on treating infection, that's where I noticed that my symptoms really subsided. And it took me time. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a healthcare provider that really understood these infections, but I did have those 4 books, and that was a start. And back in that day, they were talking more about candida. They didn't realize that there was Lyme disease that was involved. They didn't realize there were parasites that were involved. So as I mentioned, today we have a much greater understanding. So like I said, if you want to look at some of the research showing the different types of infections, this is just a small sample. Make sure that you look at that evidence. It's called evidence that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease. So I have that for you. I've been building all kinds of resources for you to really help you to understand there is a better way. You do not have to live like this. You can do what I've done. So maybe you are somebody who you've had multiple sclerosis for a long time and you think, well, Pam, you know, it worked for you because you caught it early. Well, that's not true, because when you watch my masterclass training, you'll see that I have many students that have had chronic disease, multiple sclerosis, all kinds of conditions for many, many years, many medications they were on, very sick and disabled, and they've had wonderful recoveries. So I just want you to know that this is for everyone, all right? Not just for people that are catching it early like I did. So on my journey, it did take years, and I did spend thousands of dollars, because it was trial and error and research. And I really believe that this has been my job. This has been what, you know, other than being, which is my number one job, is being a mother and a wife and a grandmother. But this is what God has called me to do, is to help people in my own humble way. And I know I don't have all the answers, but we're getting amazing, amazing results helping people recover. So I am a crazy researcher, and I have a science degree. So I was able to go back to university, get a science degree, and I decided not to be the doctor. I decided to become a teacher, which is, as I mentioned, God leading me, because that was the skill I needed to help people more than anything. I love teaching. I love coaching people. And so what it's turned into is that I've been MS-free for 28 years. I had another child who is now 22 years old, a young man who actually just graduated today. He just passed his journeyman, and he's a journeyman electrician today, which is so cool. He's perfectly healthy. He's never been on antibiotics. Not that I withheld it from him, but he didn't need it, because we applied all these principles that I learned. So even though I was so sick, I have 3 healthy, beautiful children that are now all grown up. And I have 2 granddaughters, and I get to be active in their life, and I get to do whatever. I jump on the tramp with them, run around with them. They're very active, 3 and 1, so it's really fun. And a huge, huge blessing for me is that I've had the amazing privilege to coach hundreds of people over the past, it would be 18 years now, which is crazy. And more in a formal group setting over the last 6 years. We have a program that is helping people recover, and we are almost in 10 countries now. My classes are anywhere around like 80 or more students per class. And these people are my heroes. And as you are joining me in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing many of their success stories so that you can meet them. Some of you guys are wellness champions, and you are listening right now. You guys are my heroes, and I'm so proud of you, because many of you have suffered a lot more than I have, right? And you have maybe didn't even have as much support as I did. And I really honor you. And it's been such an honor and a privilege to support you. So I've had this amazing life, being able to be active in doing any type of activities that I want, and also watching and helping other people to recover too. It is work. It is a lot of work, but you know what? It's doable. It's not as much work as living with chronic disease. So I just want you guys to know that there is hope for you. This is a very, very exciting time for people that have multiple sclerosis, because the true cause, which is infection, which is what I'm going to talk about next Wednesday, is exploding in science right now. And we're getting a much, much better understanding of which specific infections are making us sick, and also how to knock them back in our body, because they're so deep rooted in our body. And so we really have to knock them back. And just so you know, it's not like the good old days where we could just take an antibiotic and we could just pop a pill and get better from our strep throat or our bronchitis or pneumonia. These are deep-rooted chronic silent infections that we have to treat differently. We have to use a holistic approach. And when you do that, you recover and you actually feel better than you did even before your diagnosis. Because many of you have been carrying these infections around for years before your diagnosis. So how many of you had optic neuritis? That was your first symptom. That's very, very common. For some of us, it's other things. It can be different tingling, bending your neck. So let me know which were your first symptoms. And let me know how long you've had it. Any questions that you have for me, I'm going to go over to the questions right now. But like I said, it has been just a wild ride. Number one, to live like this. When you get your life back, as I have, you live completely differently. You live on a whole different level. And that's why I'm so passionate to help other people recover. So I'm going to head over to your questions and your comments and say hello to a few people. So please make sure that you share all of this with other people that are searching for answers, because they really don't have to live with this. Hello, Dana. Hello, Mary. Christy. Hi, Christy. And Susan. And Janae. And Marianne. Hello. Thank you, Olivia. And Marianne finally figured out, okay, you finally figured out how to join us. Margaret, hello Margaret. And Margaret, you have had amazing, you can type in your successes. That would be very lovely. So Margaret is one of the wellness champions that has totally become symptom free in as little as 3 months. She's still working on the infections, right? We're not cured, but becoming MS free of symptoms is amazing. And Mary Ann Rowan, totally active, raised 3 kids, still played sports and taught, ate healthy, never was overweight. People would say that you are the bill of health. Then bam, after 2 years of trying to figure out, diagnosed at 58 years old, doctor's words, you gave MS. The doctor's words, you have multiple sclerosis. I'm so sorry, Mary. That is brutal. And that is the crazy thing, is that, you know, we have to go back to common sense, right? I'm 56 years old. In my generation, it was like the doctors know about health. We don't know. That's their job. We just go to them and they fix us. Well, once you get sick, you realize, don't get me wrong, I love my doctor and they are wonderful at testing and supporting, but our health is our responsibility. So I wanted to share a couple of nuggets with you that I learned that are priceless. Number one, wellness is not a mystery. We have to listen to our body. We have to make sure that we are taking charge of our health. We have to be the director of our health. That is so important, to learn the skill to be the director of our health. Our health is our greatest asset. It truly is. If we don't have our health, it makes life really, really difficult. So we have to learn the skills, and then we play an active role in our healthcare. And what I have found is that wellness and staying well and being well, there's lots of different steps. But if you're dealing with symptoms, it's coming from 3 main causes. Number one, infections in the body, chronic silent infections in the body. Number 2, toxicity. Most of the toxins are coming from these infections, but yes, there are toxins in our environment. Maybe you live in an area where there's a lot of industrial waste, maybe the GMOs, right? And we're dealing with geoengineering, what's coming in our air. There's so many different sources of toxins in our water, in the air we breathe, everywhere. So this is where we really have to minimize our toxins. But honestly, the biggest source of your toxins are the infections. So as you treat the infections, the toxin load goes down. And the 3rd biggest cause of any type of disease symptoms could be that you're deficient in nutrients, in specific nutrients. So we can be deficient because our food is not the same. And I've done a video on that before on my YouTube channel, Live Disease Free. I've got a ton of free videos there. So you can actually look at what's wrong with our food. Why are we so deficient in nutrients? It is partially our food, but it's also these infections. They are parasites. They eat our nutrients and our calories. So that's very important to know. So number one, wellness is not complicated. We have to go back to common sense. We have to listen to our body. We have to learn the simple principles that we didn't learn in school. And that's what helps us recover quickly, which could take months, not years. And it helps us to live a very long, healthy, and happy life. And then we have to understand the true cause of infection, the true cause of disease symptoms, as I mentioned: infection, toxicity, and nutritional deficiencies. Those are the three big ones. When you correct those, you start to heal, and you can heal pretty quickly. So that is super important. And if you want your life back, and if you want to live the very best quality of life, the last point is you have to treat the cause of your symptoms. You cannot treat the symptoms. If you treat symptoms, you are going to live with the symptoms, and you're going to get more and more symptoms because you're not treating the infections or the nutritional deficiency or the toxicity, most of all of which is from the infections. So that's been the key to me living an amazing life and helping many others recover also. So I'm going to go back to your comments and questions here. They are scrolling through. So hello, Henny and Veronica. Crystal said she lost her voice. It was so bad and so sad for her. I am so excited to support Crystal, and I am so sorry that Crystal has had to suffer so much. Bridget, what is the name of this book? So the first book that I read, it's called The Yeast Connection by Dr. William Crook. Don't purchase it because it's really outdated. Go to your library, you might find it there. I did write a book, it's called Become a Wellness Champion, and it has much more current information about all of these infections and about what we do. So I've developed a system that helps people recover, and it's called the Live Disease Free System. So if you're somebody, I'm going to go back to the comments, but if you're somebody who's like, I want to get better, I'm so ready, Pam, I've been looking for this for so long, and I talked to 2 people today that were like that, just, and catch it as early as possible. Thank you for all the love. But if you're at that place where you're so ready, all you have to do is watch my masterclass training. You've got to have some understanding before you and I chat. And if you're really ready to beat this, and it's going to take commitment, you're going to have to give up sugar, you're going to have to give up alcohol and caffeine, and you're going to have to eat really healthy and clean. The eating plan is simple, it's fresh, it's tasty. Your taste buds will change and you'll love it. But if you're ready to make the change, and also you have to understand you're going to have to invest in your health. You're not going to have to invest 40 to 80,000 like some of these clinics that are really good, but it's astronomical. One beautiful soul, that's a lady that registered to join my program today, she has spent $55,000 on the stem cell transplant. She spent $12,000 on CCSVI in the early days, and she also did the safer stem cell treatment for $20,000. It doesn't, and those treatments didn't help her because none of them are treating the infections. That's the problem. If you've got to switch your thinking and go, okay, what do I need? Like, how do I figure out which infections they are? How do we treat them? How do we support the body? How do we make sure we successfully treat them and recover? That takes strategy, all right? And that's what I've developed in the system. So all you do is you listen to my masterclass training, and you have to understand that if you're ready, if you're at the place where like, I'm ready to, pay for my health, but not that much, but just reasonable, like working with a naturopath or buying killing agents, supplements, and different things like that. If you're ready, then you can book a time with me I'll interview you, and it's a free health strategy session. And that's only for people that are ready. All right. If you're at the place where you're like, this stuff is kind of new to me, watch my free trainings, watch all the videos I have, read my book, and read over that MS is our evidence that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease. Go through those resources. It's going to be so eye-opening for you. And then when you're ready, I'm here. All right. So thank you, Marianne. Yes, the yeast connection. Hello, Rob. Hello, Maureen. Hi. So Margaret shared, I am living proof that treating the infections, it has transforming results. So yes, you did. You are doing an amazing job, Margaret. I'm very, very proud of you. And hello, Sherry. So hello, Mary and Sherry, and I'm just looking to see. So Janae, you were wanting to do the master class, but you're on disability. All right, so reach out to us, Janae, all right, because there's different ways I can support you. So would you send us an email, and there's different ways I can support you for sure. I know some of us are on disability. What some people do is, if you're on disability, some people will do fundraising, right? And we can support people in different ways, but getting well is going to cost money, right? It's just like buying groceries, paying rent. There's going to be some. And if you really believe that this is your answer, then people, they do fundraising, right? They go to their churches, they get help from family, they get help from friends, they do GoFundMe. There are lots of people in this world that would love to help you, but they don't know that you need help. So you have to reach out. Hello, Deborah. Thank you so much, Rob, for the email. So Marianne, doing lots of reading online and from the library. So Marianne, you just joined us, and I'm super excited to support you. Hello, Rachel. Not as many questions because this is my story, but with a lot of the other topics, next week, when we do the Facebook Live next week, and I'll be talking about the true cause of multiple sclerosis, I'll be adding in some new insights, because we're constantly getting new insights. And the more insights we have, the more we truly understand what we're up against in recovery. So Marianne said the MS drugs won't cure you, but they will actually make you worse. That is so true. I'm not against pharmaceuticals. There's a time and a place for certain pharmaceuticals, and they can be life-saving. If you're dying of pneumonia, they will save your life if you take the right antibiotics. But the problem is with multiple sclerosis that none of the disease-modifying drugs, they do not treat infection. That's the bottom line. But some of my students do use some anti-parasitic or antifungal pharmaceuticals to treat infections, and that can be helpful. Not everybody does. Some people would rather use herbs. Some would like to use stronger pharmaceuticals to treat the infection, but then it is helpful. Otherwise, the standard MS drugs, none of them treat multiple sclerosis, and I would really hope you guys would start to research the pharmaceuticals that you're on. There's a really great resource. It's called pdr.net, physiciansdeskreference.net. You can go on there. You can look up your pharmaceutical, look up the adverse effects, look at how that works in the body, which is called the mode of action. Very important, because sometimes, let's say we need something for pain, and we read up on the drug we're taking, and it's like, oh, the adverse effects are really scary. You can go to your doctor and you can say, I've been researching this and I'm really concerned with the adverse effects. Is there something else I could use for pain management that does not have so many side effects? And very often there is. This is part of being the director of your health, and this is what I've learned. So it's not that I figured this out 28 years ago and I hit those infections hard enough and I've been drinking beer and wine and having pizza and cheesecake. No, I knocked them back really well 28 years ago, and then I know now, because I'm the director of my health, I know how to manage them. I know how to keep the bad ones down and the good ones up well enough that I have lived MS-free for 28 years. And that's what you guys can do too. And so it is about recovery, and then it's about having this beautiful retirement with your loved ones, right? Because like I'm 56 and I've been working hard all my life, and many of you have been too, and we don't want to be in an extended care facility, right? When we're retired, we want to still be driving, and we want to be traveling, and we want to be enjoying our children and our grandchildren and all our friends. And that is what happens when you learn how to be the director of your health, when you learn how to manage your microbes and you learn the true principles of health. And you can do that by watching my masterclass training and going through all of the different resources that I have for you, the free YouTube, the Live Disease Free channel, and then also my book, Become a Wellness Champion. It's on Amazon. And it's going to open your world to this, your eyes to this whole new world of possibilities. Just like my eyes were opened back in 1988. I still can't believe I'm this old, but what are you going to do, right? You just, as long as you feel good, that's what matters. So thank you so much for posting that resource evidence that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease. That would be in the feed where all the comments are below this video. So Veronica, as a mom with a college child who has been told there is no hope, I could not accept that. And Veronica, you are such a hero. You're going against all odds, and I am so incredibly honored to support you and Crystal, and I'm so incredibly honored that to be part of this journey with you. So you put all kinds of put her on all kinds of meds, but they were just band-aids and not helping her to get better, and she got worse and worse. You always knew that if I kept looking, you would find something to help your child, and you did, and I'm super excited to support both of you. And everything you learned, Veronica, is going to be really good for your health too, because as a mother who is supporting a child who is so disabled with chronic disease, that is so taxing on your health. So please, whatever you learn, implement it for yourself too, because it's going to give you all of the energy to be able to do all the work that you have to do. Margaret, you used herbs to push back the bad microbes, followed by killing bacteria, then pushing back parasites while following. So remember that it was a full plan. There was the eating plan, and I've shared this on a lot of videos. We first have to stop feeding the infections. That's a really big part. Then the next step is we have to support the body in many different ways. You can't start killing when your body has been so taxed with all of the inflammation and the toxins from these infections. Then we go to the killing phase, and this is where people are dealing with parasites, they're dealing with fungal overgrowth, they're dealing with different types of bacteria, and we usually start with the bigger ones, knocking them back. Then we move to the fungus if necessary. This is all based on assessment forms and different symptoms that you have. The killing part will go on for a few months. So although Margaret is pretty much symptom free, she's just having an amazing time with being able to go for big long hikes, walks, etc. But she knows she still has work to do, right? And that's the key, is that you do a little bit more work, because you want to knock them back so far that you can handle the stresses in life. That when things go sideways with relationships, with sickness, with accidents, whatever, that sure, it's tough to get through it, but you don't end up with an MS attack or any other exacerbation of chronic disease. That is the whole goal, and the goal that we have. Hello, Kia. Yes, Margaret, we can take our health back and live our lives to the fullest. And Susan, I'm so excited to support you. You can expect a bright future. All you have to do is follow the steps. It is laid out step by step by step. And Margaret shared, this was a very eye-opening journey. It changes your life. It completely transforms your lives. And honestly, Mary, as far as what Margaret used to kill, you cannot just take something and start killing. You'll see that it doesn't work. You have to do all the steps, right? You can go to the health food store, you can buy herbs for candida, and you'll see that you still have your multiple sclerosis, because there's so much more to it. And as you hang out and listen to my trainings and the masterclass training, you're going to see why it is so complex. The people that are recovering, they do not recover from a pharmaceutical, they do not recover from a herb or even a blend of herbs. It's multi steps. That's why we will never have a total magic pill cure. All right, so hello, Anthony. You could not swallow. That was one of your first symptoms. That is super scary. I am so sorry that you went through that. So Marianne, yours was stress and a panic attack. You called 911. And Zenobia, you had it for 25 years. You don't have to live with this anymore. All right? So Maureen, you just finished 3 days of antibiotics. You're still so tired and you didn't feel any better. So this is where the antibiotics, I'm not sure if that was for a bladder infection, but what you need to do is just go back to the basics, start with the eating plan, But remember that when we have these constant bladder issues, and sometimes we do get a bacterial infection that flares up like E. coli, but honestly, we have different parasites inside of our bladder also. So we have to treat different types of bacteria and parasites. And that I'm going to be sharing in the upcoming Facebook Lives also, because the more that we really understand what we're dealing with, because it's in our bladder, it's in our eyes, it's in our central nervous system. For women, oftentimes it's in our breasts, for men in our prostate, and in our lungs, and in our sinuses, different, and some people are dealing with gallbladder issues. So we can have multiple different types of bacterial and fungal and parasitic infections in different parts of the body. That's why you can't say, which herb cured you? There wasn't one herb that cured her. She's been working through layers of different infections. Optic dermatitis in 2003, Kimberly, I'm so sorry to hear that. Deborah Lee, Lyme disease. Yes, we know that Borrelia and all the co-infections are pretty much always associated with multiple sclerosis. All right, so there are a lot of different comments here. So Seeley, please talk about how denial can really mess up one's life. I know I lost a lot. So a lot of us, we think like, well, maybe I got a strain of multiple sclerosis that is not as bad as the normal strain. Maybe I'm one of the lucky ones, right? I hear people at the beginning talking like this, like maybe, if I just follow a healthy eating plan and I exercise and I have a positive attitude, I'm not going to let this thing get me. There's no way I'm going to let this MS get me. Well, when you have nematodes in your blood and in your spinal fluid, and you're dealing with Borrelia in your brain, and you've got fungal overgrowth, like all of it in your gut also, and you're loaded, it doesn't matter how positive you are. And what I see the problem is, so this is all the denial, and it's really because we don't understand what we're dealing with. And when I was just 28 years old and I read that first book, I didn't fully appreciate what was going on. Luckily I thought, okay, infection, right? So I'm going to go down a different path. But for me, it was years and years of try this, try that, try this, safe things. I didn't do any of the expensive things. We didn't really have access to any of those. Thank goodness. I didn't have the money for that anyhow. But the neat thing is that as I just kept focusing on infection, that's truly what gave me my life back. And yes, it was hard, and it took many years, and I spent way more money than I needed to, but I didn't have any help. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a doctor that understood this. But as I pieced it all together, I was able to treat the infection well enough to be staying MS-free for 28 years and just living an amazing life. And I still manage. I still work at this. I still knock the bad, like once you get good at this and you recover, you know that you've got to do a parasite cleanse once or twice a year. You know that you've got to whack them back once in a while. That's just part of the deal. But then you know, and you know what to do, and you make sure you never get back in that danger zone again. So that was a really good point, Celia. Thanks for sharing. And so finding local MDs is not easy where you live, but I'm going to be helping you, Marianne. Sorry, I don't know if your last name, if you're one of the brand new students. I think you are, but I will be talking about that in the future on Facebook Lives also, like how to find a good doctor. They're good doctors, they mean well, but how to find a skilled doctor that understands infection and how to work with doctors. You're working together as a team. So that's very important, but we do cover that in the class, and I do help my students to really understand. But most of this you can do yourself. So hello, Leanne. So you've been doing the eating plan and you're feeling a lot better and you're ready for the next phase. Way to go. So Leanne there's quite a few new students that are listening to the video right now. What is my opinion on lactose-free yogurt and cheese? So we would avoid all of that right now. Because even if it's milk, a milk product, and it has the milk protein in it, that is not going to help us recover, because the milk protein is very similar in structure to the gluten protein, and we're very sensitive also to gluten. So any type of natural doctor, naturopathic, functional, they know that when we have chronic disease, we always avoid all dairy products. So it doesn't matter that the lactose is gone, we avoid all dairy products. Very, very important, except for butter. and ghee would be the best. Hello, Grace. Good morning. So I'm trying to think where you would be. Probably maybe Australia, New Zealand. So my story is very, very similar to yours, Grace. So in the early 80s, your left eye went blind. I am so sorry to hear that. All right. And then I think that's it. So I think I'm going to let you guys go for now. It is a process. It really is. So that's why you just cannot look for that magic pill, that magic cure. It isn't there. But let me tell you, although it's a little bit of work implementing all of this, it still is way better than living with chronic disease, living with multiple sclerosis. So what I would love for you to do is, number one, if you're ready, if you are like, I have to get well, I'm done with this, everything Pam's been sharing is making sense, then make sure you listen to my masterclass training. And I just did that. Like I said, we had 1,700 people register from all over the world. I am so incredibly honored. Listen to it. You're going to learn a lot. Then if you're at that place where you're like, I'm ready to go for it, I'm ready to take back my life, then you can book a time. But remember, go through, it tells you who it's qualified or how to qualify for that free session with me. And remember, I'm not going to be able to offer these free sessions for much longer. We're just reaching more and more countries. There's just one of me. I'm going to start training up other coaches that will help. And they'll be more like wellness champions that have recovered for sure. So they understand the process and they have that personal testament that really helps other people having confidence. And they have that deep level of understanding what we're up against. So with that, listen to it and make sure that you book the time to chat with me and you can get started. We're just starting a new class right now. It's a perfect time if you're ready. And I'm super excited to support you and meet you. And I also, like I said, I've got all that free content. Go on to the Live Disease Free, the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. And there's a lot of wonderful videos there, especially a 5-part series talking about all the different types of infections associated with multiple sclerosis. And I also have the sheet, or the page, which is called Evidence that Multiple Sclerosis is an Infectious Disease. So with that, you guys have everything you need. And my book, Become a Wellness Champion. Start wherever you're ready. But if you're ready, we'd love to support you, love for you to be a wellness champion. And you're going to hear a ton of success stories on that masterclass training that I just did last Wednesday. Next week, the true cause of multiple sclerosis. So I'm going to be talking about infections. I'm going to be talking about some new insights. It's so exciting. You know, week by week, things are rolling in as far as better understandings of these infections. So I'm going to be sharing that so you truly have a deep understanding of what you're dealing with and why it really takes strategy to beat multiple sclerosis. So same time next week, the true cause of multiple sclerosis. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for all the love. Please share this with other people that are searching for answers. You know who they are. And we'll talk to you next week. Take care and bye-bye for now.